welcome to another exciting webinar from the Autonom8 team on how your business can be transformed with Autonom8's enterprise workflow automation capabilities. Today's session is about how agentic workflows can transform your bank or your insuring platform. And we have none other than our own CTO, Ranjit, who is going to take us through a live demo and the capabilities of what Autonom8 can do to enable agentic workflows for your institution. So without much ado, Ranjit, please take us away.
Great. Thanks, Ranga. So I'll just start by sharing my screen.
And I will cue you in at the 25-minute mark so that we leave some room for questions, Ranjit. Is that okay?
Okay, sounds good. Okay,
Perfect.
Are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yes, you could get started.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone for making the time and joining us today. So this webinar will probably run about 20-25 minutes, and then we'll leave some time for questions. The goal today is to talk a little bit about what some of the capabilities that Autonom8 provides, which are useful in the banking, in the BFSI space broadly. So I'll start with a little introduction of what we do at Autonom8, but most of the focus of today's webinar is going to be spent on looking somewhat deeply into a particular example, and we'll talk about that in more detail. So at the 100,000 foot level, we are an enterprise workflow automation company. We use all sorts of tools to enable this, including intelligence, including Gen AI, including machine learning, and all of that. And today we're going to focus on kind of how banking and insurance can benefit and manage to. There used to be a term called digital transformation. I think the new word now is AI transformation. So how Autonom8 helps you accelerate that with what we call agentic workflows. And agentic workflows is where the focus of today's call is. So let me start by just at the high level describing what is a workflow. And so if you type in what is a workflow into ChatGPT or one of your favorite tools like that, it'll give you an answer that probably makes a lot of sense to you. It's a sequence of tasks and events that leads to a particular outcome. They represent use cases. And you generally have a few kinds of citizens in this in a workflow. You have users who do manual tasks. You have services which are API oriented or programmatic tasks, and business logic that combines all of them together. So this used to be a pretty traditional definition of workflows. More recently, we have added a new type of citizen to our workflows, which we call agents. Now, agents are basically programmatic services that can behave like users. So as you can imagine, there's definitely a benefit to using agents and agentic workflows from a cost reduction perspective, from an efficiency perspective, and things like that. So this is today I'm going to focus on how the Autonom8 platform lets you build agentic workflows. I'm going to show you a demo of what's called provisional credit approval. So we have a couple of customers who are looking to do the pre-verification for credit approval through an agentic workflow, and the idea is that before someone actually submits the full application, they can do a provisional go no go type of application for credit approval. And the goal in this demo is to show you how that can be accomplished with our platform. So you can say that you want to agentify this kind of approval, and the solution is to build out these workflows with credit report analysis and banking integration and tools like that. So before I do that, let me sort of set the stage for what is the benefit of this use case. So we spoke to a few banks, and generally they have a somewhat manually oriented credit approval process where you have different people who once you get the application data from the customer or the applicant, and you have access to a credit report, you have traditionally someone who writes the credit profile, and then you have other folks who are verifying compliance, assessing risk, analyzing the credit history and things like that, until finally all this information gets sent to an underwriter. The underwriter makes a decision, and then based on the decision that gets made, you have a different person who then communicates back to the applicant with the outcome. So this is what we saw. And generally, in a manual process, there was about a 2-hour cycle time for people to perform all these tasks, and it uses 5 humans. So what we did was replace the central portion of this workflow with agents. And what you're seeing is basically a snapshot of what this looks like in our application. We reduced the cycle time, from hours to minutes, and with no humans at all, except in the final stage where there is customer communication, and potentially even that can eventually be replaced with agents. And then we added 5 agents. There's a lot of key words here, but the key point is that there's a kind of an automated and a form-based approach to capturing the user data, a completely agentic what they call multi-agent network that does the approval process, and eventually human in the loop on the back end of this agentic workflow. And as you can see, this represents a natural workflow. And as I'll demonstrate, our application, our platform allows you to express your use cases in this kind of natural way. We are pretty well entrenched in the BFSI ecosystem, both in the US and in India. And I just wanted to put this up there to just give you an idea of the kinds of use cases and tools and adapters that we have in our platform. So let me now jump into the demo part. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you in our platform what this workflow looks like. So as I explained, the applicant provides a credit application, and in this case, what they're going to be doing is uploading their credit report, and based on that, you have 5 agents who are doing 5 different tasks. There's one agent who does something, and then 3 agents who work in parallel, and then eventually, when all of their work is completed, it goes to an underwriter who then publishes the result. So I'll show you how this works. Now, before I get into that, I just wanted to also give you a glimpse of some other aspects of our platform. So for example, where we build these different forms, we have a form-based a form builder that's comes with the platform. So anytime you have human interaction, any steps for human interaction, you can actually create attractive looking forms and UIs for the users to interact with. This is our form editor, and as you can see it, I can look at create a form that has an image on one side, has tabs, and this M represents markdown language, so it will properly render markdown, for example. Likewise, you have a bunch of AI agents who are doing all these different jobs, and I'll come back to this in a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to our runtime. So just to explain how our platform works, you have a studio where you can actually create these agentic workflows. It's a drag and drop paradigm, and in fact, you can even have Copilot capability where you can dictate something into the platform and it'll automatically create the workflow for you. And then once you do that, you deploy it to a runtime. So this is the runtime that we have, and normally this would be invoked automatically when someone completes their credit application. But in this case, I'm going to invoke it manually just to walk you through all the steps. So I'm going to we have a bunch of different workflows running here, and I'm going to show you the agentic loan application. So when I hit proceed, what happens is that for every user interaction in the runtime, you get a card, and this card allows a user to actually interact and do whatever they need to do. So I'm going to click on this. Let's do this properly one more time. Okay, I'm going to click on this, and you will see that this is the first screen that appears. So in this screen, all we have to do is upload a credit application. So I'm going to upload a credit application. I have access to a few different types of credit applications. I'll pick the guy who has a good credit report, and I'll open this and I'll load this in here. So let me show you, for example, the types of credit reports that are available. This is the one that I just loaded in. And this has a particular kind of format. It's very, text oriented, but it kind of shows you the full credit history of this particular applicant. The next one is, published by TransUnion. And as you can see, this has a completely different form. But with Gen AI tools and the ability to actually extract data from PDF and all sorts of different documents, we are able to have a really wide variety of formats for the incoming credit report. And these credit reports can get loaded into the platform. And here's a third one, which is also, I guess, more text oriented, but it may have different fields, different formatting and things like that. So I'll come back here now and upload this. So when I upload this credit report, I have basically initiated the workflow that I showed you. So this was the step that I just completed. And now we have a bunch of agents who are working hard under the hood to do all their different tasks. Let me show you what these agents look like. So you have profile builder, compliance, risk, and credit analyzers. All of these people are basically doing analysis of the credit report and producing output. And eventually that output comes to an agent called the underwriter. I'll show you all of these different agents. So in our platform, you can define agents. So let's just take compliance officer, for example. So I've created a compliance officer agent. And this is a pretty simple agent. What we've done is we have analyzed, what are the typical duties of a compliance officer in many different banks, and based on that, we have distilled what is the essence of what a compliance officer does. You can then describe that using a prompt like this. So in other words, we give you the platform, and then you bring your domain knowledge to express what you want the agent to do. We use a few different models. In this case, we happen to be using the Gemini model from Google. We're using the Gemini family of models, and in this case, we're using the Two Flash model. We're also setting some limits on on the number of words and things of that nature. So many of these are similar. So if you look at credit analyst, it looks quite similar, except that the prompt says you are a credit analyst. And then eventually you come back to, I'll show you what the underwriter looks like. But let me come back to this screen where the agentic workflow is running. First thing I'm going to do is look at the history. And if I look at this most recent workflow, it says that it shows me all the agent steps that were completed, and finally it has stopped at with this person called the sales executive. If you look in the workflow, it has come to this phase. So what this means is that in this particular example, the outcome of the underwriting was that they needed more information in order to approve the application. So let me come back to this task, and I'll show you what this looks like. So when I look at when I look at this output, as you'll recall, this is the form that we designed, and within this form this form gets populated at runtime by the data that is generated by this agentic application. So as you can see that there are a few different, everything that was created by all the different agents is now listed here. And the underwriter decision was that they broadly approve the loan, but they are saying that because of recent inquiries for auto loan and insurance, they want to know if the auto loan was actually taken, in which case they need to the debt to income ratio needs to be recalculated to make sure that it remains within the acceptable level of risk. So here, again, you can see all of the findings that were generated by the credit analyzer, the compliance analyzer, the credit profiler, the credit analyzer, and the risk analysis. So all of these were automatically generated by agents. So in the end, you have a full audit of everything that was done by each of the agents, and then so you can understand how the underwriter made their decision. So I hope that makes sense. I want to go back now to the agents themselves and talk about the underwriting agent, because this is the one that has some level of complexity. So in this underwriting agent, so just to kind of back up a little bit, one of the capabilities of a workflow platform is that any data that is generated upstream, you need to be able to push it downstream to the next phase. So in other words, these three agents, for example, are generating text and descriptions of their analysis, and all of this information needs to be sent to the underwriter. So in our platform is the capability for you to assign what each agent does into and bind them to variables. You can then take those variables and collect them and push them to the next agent. So in other words, every agent operates dynamically on the data for that particular session. So if you look at this prompt, you'll see that this prompt has a variable that looks like this. So what this means is that some other agent or some other part of the workflow is responsible for creating this credit profile, but at runtime, this gets passed to this particular agent. So as you can see, they get access to the credit profile, the compliance data, the analysis data, and the risk data. And so the underwriter now collects all this data that's coming from the agents who are upstream. You'll also notice a couple of other things, that the data that the underwriter generates is made structured, because we want to push this data in a structured form to the output. And so it has basically two elements to the structure. One is the feedback, and the other one is the approval status. In this example is a little bit US centric. In the US, we have what is called the Fair Credit Reporting Act and underwriting guidelines in terms of not no discrimination, or all of those kinds of rules that are all the policies that guide banking when you underwrite a loan. So one of the abilities of our platform is to actually incorporate into the agent a knowledge base. So this is, if you're familiar with the idea of RAG and all of that, what this means is that these documents are uploaded into a knowledge base, and then that knowledge base is made available to this agent so that they can ensure that any decision they make is guided by what is in that knowledge base. So in this situation, you have fair credit reporting and all of that. In some other situation, for example, in an IT situation, you have IT policy, how to deal with tickets, how to deal with incidents, and things of that nature. So in almost every vertical, you'll find that there's a collection of important documents or policy documents that are used to guide the process along. The other part I wanted to show you here is that we have now also integration with tools. One of the interesting capabilities of agentic workflows is that not only do they use data that is created at runtime and text-based data, but they can also communicate with tools uh, to either pull data or to push data. So in this case, we have a logging system into which the data gets written. So this tool is very helpful from an audit perspective. So from an audit perspective, every decision made at every step during a credit application needs to be audited and logged. And so what this does is all of the data provided by the agents is logged into this Temenos system for use by anyone, regulatory people or compliance people, in case there is some complaint from the applicant that they were unfairly rejected for a loan and all of that. So you get all the capabilities that you get from a traditional banking and loan approval system, and with including audits and all of those kinds of things. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how an agentic workflow can be built. Just to come back to this, many of these agents are available pre-built. So in other words, we have a collection of agents that are useful for banking, for HR, for insurance, for IT, and all of that. So you don't have to write your own, but if you choose to write your own, it's very easy to add your own agent. You can, I can add an agent, and then if I, want to create a prompt, I can go to the prompt gallery and generate a prompt, or and there are some pre-existing prompts that are available to me in case I want to use them. So over time, the system, will have a large library of available agents that you can just drop directly into your workflows like this. So that's kind of an overview of this particular workflow. Since we have a few more minutes, Ranga, I'm just going to show another type of workflow, which is not. Are we good with that, Ranga?
Yeah, we have 4 minutes more before
Okay.
we open up for Q&A.
Got it. So I just wanted to show this as just as kind of an idea of all the different capabilities that are available. So I'm going to show you what is like a typical PO invoice process. So a PO invoice process here is a different type of agentic workflow. So you have, let's say I'm a buyer and I've generated a PO to a vendor, and the vendor is going to invoice me. What I want to do is once I get the invoice, I want to make sure that the invoice matches the PO and there are no surprises. So we are using agents to do both generation of PO and invoices and also the reconciliation of the PO to the invoice. So I'll just show you how to build a use case like this. The previous workflow I showed you, to build it end to end with our platform, if you kind of have an idea of what your domain is and how you want to prompt the agents, you can actually do this in less than a day. Something like this would take half a day to a day, depending on your familiarity with the platform. So let me start this process. I'm going to hit complete here, and I'm going to start the PO invoice process. So let me start this, and just to give you an idea of what this looks like in a completely different use case. So the first step allows me to define the PO. I keep clicking this too soon. Okay. So it allows me to describe the PO, and there's some very basic information. So let's say I am the buyer and the seller is ABC Furniture or something like that. And I'm estimating the sales tax at being 5%. And then I'm going to enter a list of all the items in the PO. So I've said 10 chairs, 4 tables, and 10 cushions. So this is my PO that I'm generating, and I'm going to hit complete on this. Coming back to the workflow, you'll see that now what's going to happen is that we have an agent who's going to generate the PO for this. And so when I come back here and reload this page, you should see a new card here which says view PO. So I'm going to look at this PO. And this is the PO that was generated using GenAI. So this is using GenAI in a somewhat more traditional way where it's generating content. And so it has captured everything that's in the PO. So I'm going to hit complete on this. The next step that I have is, let's say I'm now taking on the role of the vendor, and I'm going to describe the invoice. So as you can see, it already preloads the buyer and seller information, but I had put 5%. Let's say the actual sales tax is 7%, and the shipping cost is $50. And then I'm going to enter the copy pasting, but let's say the price of cushions has gone up to $6 a piece. So now this is the invoice that's coming from the vendor back to the buyer. I'll hit complete on this. And then you can, within a few seconds, you should see the next card show up, or I'll just reload it so that we can see it. And you can see the invoice. So obviously you don't have in any one agentic workflow both a buyer and a vendor, but I'm just for demonstration purposes showing you this. So in this case, this is the invoice that is created by the vendor, and they have captured what was described in their invoice. Now I'm going to hit complete, and as you can see in this agentic workflow, so what you did was I just showed you the invoice. That was the view invoice step. These steps need not be viewed. All of these can be removed, so that way you get complete automation without any human intervention. But I'll just show you this. We have another agent that reconciles the PO and the invoice, and then I'll show you what the results look like. So if I come back here and hit reload, it says view results. And you can see that this has done an analysis. As you can see, it said a few things are the same, but it says unit price for cushions is $6, not $5. The there is a sales tax at 7% over 5%. It includes the shipping costs and all of that. So basically, it gives you as the buyer protection in the sense that it's looking at the invoice and making sure that you're not over invoiced for something where you have a budget. So this is just another example of an agentic workflow. So I just wanted to show you a couple of these things that are useful across many industries. The first one is obviously more banking credit specific, but this one is more universal where you have any buyer seller kind of interaction. So that's all I had to show. So
Awesome,
we
Ranjit.
can.
I think we have questions coming in as well. I
Okay.
saw one question come up and briefly disappear. It was about why are we using so many agents, not more or less, since everything is going to be done by an agent.
Yeah, so there are a few different. So let me show you this one, for example. Let me show you the loan application. So in this loan application, there is it so happens that I've chosen 5 agents, but I could have made this one agent and given all the prompts for all of the steps to that one agent. Now, there are pros and cons of doing it like that. When you have more and more intelligence encapsulated within a single agent, you're expecting um, let me back up a bit. The general nature of what is an agent is that it reasons and it acts. So uh, this is called React, which is not to be confused with the UI technology. Anyway, so when you combine a lot of React capability within a single agent, you start to lose visibility into what's going on at each stage. I think you pick a style that is more suitable for you. If you can think of each agent as mapping to a human, or if you can think of each agent as mapping to a task, that might be the most natural style. It's like when you write code, you write functions that are specific to, that encapsulate single actions, and then you combine all these functions together to create a program. So that's kind of the idea. You can do this with 3
Awesome.
agents, you can do this with 1 agent, except you'll have to vary your prompt.
Great. Thanks, Ranjit. There's one more
Yeah.
question coming in, which is, can you integrate ServiceNow to your agentic workflows?
Yeah, actually, we have a capability. We have the capability to integrate this agentic workflow with any of these financial clouds like Salesforce or ServiceNow. When you build an agentic workflow like this with our platform, it is delivered as it comes with an API. So in other words, you can use this as a tool in someone else's agentic workflow. So take ServiceNow, for example. ServiceNow has recently announced a whole slew of tools around agentic workflows where you have kind of the idea of an orchestrator. And then based on the tasks that you give the orchestrator, it picks the appropriate tool. So what you can do is within ServiceNow, you can just bundle a workflow like this as a tool that performs provisional credit, for example. And then what will happen is that the orchestrator, when someone says, I want provisional credit, will actually invoke this particular workflow and run it. So that kind of integration is also possible with Salesforce. So we do have,
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. I think that's about the amount of questions that we have had. If you
Okay.
folks have any questions that we could not probably answer during the webinar, or you have a question that came up after the webinar is done, please feel free to send it to our team where you got the registration info from. And if you would like to have a brief look at the recording after, you go back to your work and you realize there's some capability you wanted to revisit, you should be able to get the recording shortly after during this day. Yeah. If there are no more questions, going once, going twice. All right. It looks like it's a
Yeah.
good sweet
Thanks.
spot to the end of the webinar too. So thanks, Ranjit, for taking us through this demo.
Yeah,
And
thanks
we will,
everyone. Thanks to everyone who joined.
yeah, and we'll be in touch for more such webinars like these. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.